Hello, welcome to Toot Your Own Horn Music Matters. Today I am here with flutist Ramona Douglas. I am so happy to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's very exciting to have a flutist on our podcast. I've had a lot of clarinetists in a row, so I'm super excited to hear your perspective. And I would love for you to tell us your story about how you started the flute and what you've done with it.
So interesting. My very first instrument was not the flute. I actually started as a violinist when I was in second grade. And I grew up in a musical household. You know, dad was a musician, mom was also a singer. So I grew up in a very musical household and have been surrounded by instruments and music and of different genres and all of that sort of thing. So I'm a little different and I was exposed to a lot of different things. So actually started on violin, but when I got to sixth grade, as most kids do, that's about the time you can do your band instruments, right? Where fifth or sixth grade,
Yeah.
we're physically developed enough where we can kind of blow into something, right?
Yep.
So I was like, I think I do want to try a wind instrument. And for me, it was between flute and clarinet, and I just gravitated towards the flute. I just really liked the sound of it. I liked that I could make a sound on it. I picked it up fairly quickly. And so once I realized I kind of had a bit of a natural feel for that instrument, I kind of took off. So for a long time, I really did play both instruments in school. So I would be in orchestra playing violin or chamber orchestra, and then I would be playing flute in band or jazz band or whatever. And I did that, throughout high school.
Hmm.
But I also noticed that a lot of times they needed more string players than they did flute players. And I was like, but I like my flute better. So I kind of stopped telling people I played violin for a while so they wouldn't like try to stick me in the front of the second violin section or something like that. As I went to college, I decided that flute was going to be my main instrument. And I just really gravitated towards it. I loved the sound. I loved what I heard. Other professional flutists, teachers of mine gave me some CDs of like Jean-Pierre Rampal or James Galway, like the kind of superstar flute players during that time period. And I just was like, yeah, I want to sound like that. They seem like larger than life, kind of musicians, but they really did kind of draw me in. And so sometimes I think even just exposure to some of those major artists is a good way to really capture, especially a young child, really kind of get them to go like have that magical spark.
Hmm. Did you start on a rental flute? Did you have a private teacher that was of influence? Was your family the main source? Like, what is it that got you to be so sticky?
So there was like an old closed hole Armstrong that was already in my house that I kind of started on. And like I said, I would kind of mess around with it, when my dad wasn't looking or playing or playing it himself. They saw that I was really kind of sticking with it and took it more seriously. And they went and took me to buy my first open hole flute, which was a Gemeinhardt. It was just a solid silver Gemeinhardt, kind of old faithful. I still have it.
Was it just kind of expected
So
in your
yeah.
family that you would play a musical instrument? I mean, it seems because you had that in your background, it almost seems
Mhm.
like it was a given.
Yeah. It's funny because I think my parents tried not to force me to. They didn't want to give the idea that like, oh, you're definitely going to play an instrument. I always went to them first. So even when it was violin when I was in second grade, I went to them first about I saw like some of my friends basically in school playing violin at the Christmas concert or whatever. I was like, I kind of want to do that. And so that's how I got started. So it was probably a given that I might have had some natural ability, but they never actually forced me into it. I always went to them anytime I said I wanted to play an instrument.
Mm. Did you take private lessons? What kept you going when you first started? Because I think the beginning is so hard, even if you can make a sound. There's
Right.
so hard.
It is really difficult. So my first like year and a half, um, like I said, my dad kind of started me at home like over a summer. And then when I went to school, I was just doing school. My middle school teacher, who happened to be a flute major, let me tell you, I was incredibly lucky. My high school and middle school directors were flute majors, so that's just like an anomaly that doesn't happen often. She saw that I was doing really well, and so she got me into a scholarship program for private lessons at Temple University Music Prep. And they had like a community scholars portion of that program. So my lessons got mostly paid for. Her name is Roberta Gorin, and she's taught in Philadelphia public school system for a long time. She's retired now, and and she was another one of those teachers that kind of gave me like that first Ron Paul CD, to listen to. So she, even though I came from a musical household, like she really kind of helped set me up going forward, and really kind of again got that spark going for that instrument itself, not just about music, but to really get excited about the flute. So yeah, so she started me, and then when I started taking the private lessons, it was with Stephen Walensky, and he was a student of Kincaid and John Wummer and all those great flute players that were back in that Philadelphia Orchestra wind section. And again, my band director, Dimitri Kariga, he was the same way. Like they actually went to school together. So I was just surrounded by like really great flute players. So again, that's kind of a odd situation, but there were kind of like steps that led to it that anybody could do. It could be that band director that just gives you that CD or just directs you to this program that helps you get to that next place. And I think that's really a big part of what gets us to get excited about it, is really kind of having that mentor, that teacher that can kind of lead the way.
Mhm. And were you interested in other subjects, or was it, how did you come to the conclusion that you were going to be a major in music?
It's interesting because when I was choosing high schools in Philadelphia, I wasn't totally sure. So I went to a high school where I knew there was a great academic program, but also a great music program. Because otherwise, I would have just gone to the creative and performing arts high school, which I did get accepted to. But I ended up going to Girls High because I knew I would have an excellent music teacher, but it was also like an academically challenging school.
Mhm.
And I did have some other interests. I had interests in law, I had interests in history, and I did pursue those in my academic courses. I took, AP government and all that kind of stuff. And even throughout college, I took a lot of political science courses. I still ended up like really excelling in music, and I kept those other things as just an additional interest. But I did in high school kind of decide like, okay, definitely I'm gonna go for music as my major. It just like I said, I just kind of really loved playing and loved all the different opportunities that I got to have because we played musicals, and we did honor band and honor orchestras and going through all the all state stuff, and so that just being able to have all those different opportunities kind of motivated me to want to practice and just do more in that area.
Were you always first chair, or did you have to fight to get to be first chair? Or how did that all work?
Oh no, I was not always first chair by any means. When I was a freshman, I was in the first section, which was rare for a freshman to do, but I definitely still kind of fight my way through in getting to first chair, and especially in the honor bands. I wasn't really first chair in any of that stuff until like junior and senior year. And so I went through a lot of, trials and tribulations with that because I struggled with auditioning. Even for my college auditions, I struggled with auditioning as well. Kind of took till I got to the last one for me to finally like feel comfortable and just know, okay, you've played all of this stuff like 9 million times. Like it's fine. Like, and just kind of get over the nerves. Yeah, there were a few kind of obstacles that I worked through, and I'm still working through. I'm still, taking orchestral auditions here and there, and still working through how to deal with nerves and how to feel comfortable, and how you're preparing and all of that sort of thing. So I was going through that even early on. It was never easy for me to just show up and audition and just automatically get first chair.
What did you think you were going to do with the flute when you became a music major in college?
So it's interesting because I've always wanted to be, an inspiration to other students, whoever is coming behind me. So I always wanted to kind of do education and performance initially. Because of the way things went with my schooling, I ended up not staying with that music education major because I just had some financial issues with school. And it turns out that as my career went on, I did do some teaching. I still do quite a bit of teaching, but I really, really, really wanted to try my best to play at a high level. And so there was a big gap, and then I went back to school to get my master's, and I fell into chamber music. Initially, I thought I was gonna be like a head, band director or head of a music department. But at the end of the day, I kind of ended up really leaning more towards chamber music and leaning more towards teaching mainly flute or woodwinds and just kind of staying in that niche versus, having a whole department under me. But it's taken a different turn and it's been really nice. I've done a lot of things with chamber music. I've also done a lot of things with other nonprofit organizations that with other flute players. My career it's taken me a lot of different places that I wasn't even sure that that was going to happen, but that can happen in music. A lot of times you just never know what kind of opportunity is going to come your way. It's just about kind of preparing and just going through the journey and seeing where it takes you.
Have you been happy with the kind of work you're getting and the growth of your career? Like, what do you see present and future for where you're headed?
I have been happy with what's happened. I am always still striving to do more with orchestral work. And it's a really difficult, realm to break into, especially if your trajectory hasn't been like straight orchestral path. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've been doing teaching and I've been doing chamber music, so I've kind of gone back and forth in between some other things. I think that really excelling with chamber music and the quintet that I'm in, which is called Adelante Winds. We've really been doing a lot of great work, and I'm hoping that it's going to just lead to more touring and more of our educational projects on that realm as well, in terms of doing more residencies with colleges and high schools and stuff like that. We've worked with students of all ages, even just, with the work I've done with the quintet, so that's been really cool, and I'm really excited to see that grow and hopefully to do some more recording projects. That's one thing I really haven't done a lot of. I've done some things here and there for other people, but I've not done any of my own like recording projects. So I'm kind of hoping that things in the future will lead into a little bit more of that. It's really been a nice journey. It's been an interesting journey, definitely taking its ups and downs and its twists and turns. It's really been a lot of fun. And I would say for anybody who's trying to do the music thing is, be willing to be flexible and just kind of go for the ride because it's it's never gonna go the way you thought you planned it exactly, how you wanted it to go, right? And it's not always a bad thing if it doesn't go exactly the way you wanted it to go, because maybe the universe has something better for you in store that you didn't even think of or hadn't imagined doing. Like I said, I had no idea that my career would take a mostly chamber music path, but I really love what I do with my ensemble, and we're venturing into other chamber music things as well. So it's really been a lot of fun.
What kind of educational programming do you guys do?
One thing we have done is we have done a summer camp we're based in San Antonio actually. So we had done a summer camp for a few summers where we work with mostly high school students have ended up coming to our camp, and we obviously coach them in chamber music, but we coach them about not just how to play the music and how to play it together, but about nonverbal communication and how to present your pieces and how to talk about your pieces and how to plan your rehearsal time and all of these sorts of things. We even started doing a little bit about how you might write for your scholarships coming up now that you guys are about to go into your college stuff, like using chamber music as an avenue to kind of teach some basic life skills. So that's one project we've done. We've done a lot of projects with younger composers. Other organizations have come to us. We've judged a couple of composition competitions where we've played their new pieces, and they come in and we advise them about how to write certain things for certain instruments or how to write for a wind quintet and all that sort of thing. So we've done that probably 3 or 4 times with different organizations.
Mhm.
We did it with Youth Orchestra San Antonio. We worked it with their composing students that were doing their camp during the summer. So that was high school students that were writing some things for us, which was really cool. And then last season, it's called the Jack Stone New Music Award. And it's run out of Northwest Vista College. And that gives the opportunity for students who are at community colleges who are composition students to write and to be in a composition competition that's strictly for community college students. And so the 3 winners were flown into San Antonio. They got to stay for a few days. We premiered their pieces. It's a really cool project. Now, we started a residency at Houston Tolleson University, which is an HBCU in Austin, Texas. And so now we're branching out into doing more of those as well. So that's just some of the stuff we've been doing.
That's awesome. If somebody was listening to this podcast and just loved your story and was super interested in wanting to play a wind instrument but has hesitated to start, what would you tell them to get them moving, get them to do it right now?
Honestly, like it's really, really fun because a lot of the wind instruments can do so many different things. I didn't talk a lot about some of the other genres I've done, but I've done jazz, I've done Latin, I've been a doubler, I've done musicals, I've done all of these kinds of things. And so when you're doing those wind instruments, like the possibilities really are endless, and you can get paid to do any one of those things that I said. And it's paying, it's paying well. People are making their living doing this. If you really have the interest and if you really kind of see yourself doing it and it's just itching you and it's bugging you, take that chance and just go for it, because you never know where it could take you. It could take you any number of places in the country, in the world. It could lead you to inspiring young people. You could be inspiring older people. You can be inspiring anyone. Music is just such a powerful force in our existence. And so any opportunity that you have to where you think you might be able to do this, I say go for it and just give it a try. And, if it doesn't work out, maybe on a professional level, it doesn't mean you can't still play. There's still plenty of opportunities for you to play your instrument just because you simply love to play. So there's no harm in just giving it a try, even if you're not Prince or something like that. You don't have to go all the way there for it to be valuable to yourself and valuable to other people.